Hello again, I'm Dr. Nunez with Living Health. I get the question sometimes, what is ultra processed food? We want to avoid that. Why is it that people say to avoid ultra processed food? People ask. Well, in these series of lectures, we've been addressing lifestyle medicine. And this is the area of medicine related to the choices you make and how you live your life on a day-to-day basis. And nutrition is a big area of lifestyle medicine. But there are other areas, and I have introductions on the different pillars of lifestyle medicine that may be of interest. Just recently, we talked about the new dietary guidelines of the American Heart Association. And within that, there's this issue of the ultra-processed foods. So what are they? Well, this refers to a classification that came out a few years ago from Brazil, a Brazilian scientist talking about the different kinds of foods that we eat and how processed they are. And there are 4 categories of them. It's called the NOVA classification system. And I've linked below in in the description. You can see some of the links and sources of this, so you could read on it in a little bit more detail. So what a minimally processed, that's the 4 different categories. First, it's unprocessed and minimally processed foods are things that occur in nature. You pick a fruit off a tree, that's something that is unprocessed, minimally processed. You remove maybe, you take a seed out or a nut out from inside, you might have minimally processed it. Or you crushed it so you could eat it more easily, or you removed something from it. Could be an animal you might have removed, or parts of the animal that may not be edible, and that would be also minimally processing. Now, caution here is that just because it's minimally processed doesn't mean it's healthy. There's a lot of data that we've shared already on the issue of not overeating meat. Meat can be unhealthy if you consume too much of it. In general, what we speak about is eating whole foods, which is in this category of minimally processed or unprocessed food. So if you pick a vegetable from a plant, or you take and you consume leaves from a plant as vegetables in a salad, or you eat fruit, that's minimally or not processed. Now, when you take an orange and you squeeze it and then you drink the juice, you're minimally processing it, okay? But that's not necessarily healthy because you're concentrating the sugar and you're getting rid of fiber. It's rather also to eat that apple than to drink apple juice, even though it might be minimally processed. What's the next category? And the NOVA system is 2, which are the culinary ingredients that you sometimes extract or derive from these natural unprocessed sources. It could be something like olive oil. You squeeze that olive oil and you get, how you squeeze the olive and you get some oil out of it, or how you might process dairy to get butter, make butter or cream from milk. Now again, there's the caution, right? Just because it is in that category 2 doesn't mean it's necessarily healthy for you. But within that confine, yes, you stick to that which is less processed and more natural, and within that, more from the plant world. So I would tell you, yes, the olive oil is going to be healthier than butter or lard that you might get, even though those are in the same category. In the same as in category 1, your fruits and vegetables and beans and legumes are going to be healthier than eating some meat, even if it's not processed. Next category, number 3, is processed food. So it's basically you're taking things from that first category and second category and combining them, or adding some salt, some sugar. By the way, sugar would be something that is in that second category. You've extracted it from sugar cane. You haven't done a whole lot to it, and it's a culinary ingredient like salt. So that's in that 2 category. You combine 2 and 1 and you can get some of these processed foods in category 3, like cheese, or sometimes a hamburger. Sometimes a hamburger comes out into category 4. So again, not necessarily healthy, But now you're starting to get into an area that you're adding sugar, you're adding salt to stuff. So you're starting to change flavors or enhance the flavor that might make it more palatable, more tasty. And that might have you eat more of it. And that might be the objective of somebody selling these goods that are very processed, but it may not be good for you because you might be overeating some of that stuff. You might be getting more salt than you need, and you might be getting sugar that you really shouldn't have in your diet. So that whole processed category, now we're starting to cross into the realm of ultra processed, which is category 4 in the NOVA classification system. And these are foods that you're not going to find really in nature. They might look like something that occurs naturally, but when you look at the ingredients, there are chemicals and things that you're not going to find in your own kitchen at home. So artificial flavors, artificial enhancers of flavor or color that you are not going to find out there, that you might not have ready access to, that you might need an industrial kitchen or a laboratory to produce. And it's very effective in producing preserving foods maybe for the long haul. And again, if you have to indulge in those things, it's best not to. And the problem that we're facing in the developed world, and for instance in the United States, it's been documented now that it looks like more than half the calories we consume are coming from the ultra processed category. And that is something to look after and maybe to start to limit. And that's why we talk about whole food, plant predominant. Doesn't mean you have to be vegan or vegetarian, but that you're over in that category, and that'll keep you safe in this classification system. Okay, so whole foods means something that is not processed or minimally processed. Your fruits, veggies, and beans. You might have dried the beans to preserve them in the long haul, but in general, these are things that are going to be in the plant world that are healthy for you. If you go over into the animal world, yes, you're going to have to, it's best to go with things that are not animals that are not industrially raised in a feedlot, that they're finishing it with grain or fattening it. And there's data out there to show how animals have changed. We've changed animals, and they've become fattier or more high in calories over the decades as we've bred them, or we've refined systems of industrial finishing of animals. So be careful with that. When you indulge in eating something that is meat, go with the grass-fed, grass-finished, pasture-raised, ethically raised kinds of things. Those things do make sense if you're going to indulge in, when you do indulge in animal products. So again, I just wanted to highlight, just because something is minimally processed or unprocessed doesn't mean it's healthy. However, if something is ultra processed, if you look at the ingredient list on something and you don't recognize half the things on there, or there's a bunch of stuff that's artificial, or there's a bunch of very long words that sound chemically to you, it's probably a good idea not to be eating that. Just go to that produce section in your supermarket and enjoy some of those things you find there for snacks or otherwise. So again, lifestyle medicine is about the choices you make. Nutrition is part of lifestyle medicine. It's one of those pillars. And when we're talking today about this, you hear this term of ultra processed and avoiding ultra processed. Yes, it's a good idea to avoid the ultra processed. But just because something is not processed or minimally processed doesn't necessarily make it healthy for you. So be alert to that. I prefer the term whole food that's been minimally processed or not processed, and more plant-based, that you're eating more of your calories from the plant world. And the reason for that too is because these plants are going to tend to have a lower caloric density. So they're not as high in calories given the volume of food you're eating. So you're going to be able to fill up more if you're eating vegetables, because you're not going to get a lot of calories out of them. And you can eat a lot of vegetables and not get the calories, or get some, like when you're eating a highly processed or ultra processed food that's had added sweeteners, preservatives, and all sorts of stuff in there that you don't know where it came from. So that's part of the ethics of looking at these things too, is, well, why are they selling all this ultra processed food? Well, it might make sense in some areas where food is scarce, but we're living now in a time of a really abundance. So look at your choices and start thinking to yourself, I do have choices. Let me start picking and choosing, and let me go with something that is unprocessed, minimally processed, that is a whole food. And let me start picking things that are more from the plant world and less from the animal world. And I think that summarizes things pretty well. And then when you indulge in maybe animal world products, try to look at things that are animals that come from farms that you know of, or that they're careful with how they're raising them in an ethical manner and in a more natural manner than some kind of industrial production. I'll leave it there for you. If you like these kinds of talks, press that thumbs up, press the subscribe button, press the little bell so you can be notified of future talks, and leave a comment. If we get enough comments about something, we can address those too. So again, I'm Dr. Nunez with Living Health. Until next time, bye-bye.